Thank you, Mr Speaker. First of all, let me acknowledge our coalition partners in a confidence and supply agreement where this bill, the Productivity Commission bill, originated from in at least a legislative sense, because I'll touch on that in a minute, and it's great, if I can be so bold, if you like, for our friends in ACT to be talking about their core business, lower taxation, productivity, economic reform, perhaps less than some of the other issues we've been discussing recently, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, better make a couple of things clear. This is about not being afraid of the debate. Traditionally, there's been some topics supposedly off the table. Well, actually, New Zealand needs to discuss some issues, confront some issues, and make some choices. But for New Zealand to make those choices, New Zealanders have to be informed. Various agencies have to be informed of the up and downside of the various decisions and priorities the government, whoever the government is at the time, is making. For there is always a trade-off, and those trade-offs tend to be short-term versus medium-long-term, Mr Speaker. The trap, of course, for politicians is often to fall into the short-term trap. Well, that is a mortgage and expense on the long-term, Mr Speaker. But I'll just like to touch base on the previous speaker talked about the origins of this, because she may recall the inquiry into future monetary policy framework that was done on the FEC committee in 2007, tabled here in September 2008. Charles Chauvel was chair, and that committee majority was held by the government of the time. But much of what we're seeing today, the inquiries for this commission, inquiries into productivity-related matters, one-off reviews for existing regulations, reviews of the efficiency and effectiveness of regulatory agencies, i.e. risk and management, regulatory impact analysis on a number of proposed new regulations, research into productivity-related matters to build up institutional knowledge within the organisation itself and promote public understanding of productivity-related issues, Mr Speaker. Because I just want to quote something from the conclusion of this very good report which the FEC produced some time ago. But this is why we need to look at productivity and at least put some of those decisions and trade-offs and alternatives to the New Zealand public. And I quote, "It is clear that increasing productivity in particular is critical to delivering non-inflationary economic growth. Such growth would boost the welfare of New Zealanders both directly by raising incomes and indirectly by providing resources for other welfare-enhancing activities. We consider that to the extent that it is consistent with the government's other objectives, the government should place a high priority on policy that supports the raising of New Zealand's productivity performance. The weight given to these objectives should also be considered in light of any impacts that they may have on productivity." And it goes on, Mr Speaker, but the final concluding, which is very, very important, I think, and members should keep in mind as they're speaking, there is no silver bullet. New Zealand faces many issues, many challenges. Being number 22 in the OECD, for whatever reason we slid down there, actually we can't do much about changing where we were, but we can change where we're going to. And as I said earlier, some trade-offs from all sorts of sectors of our economy need to be looked at. And Mr Speaker, just to finally quote here, "There is no obvious silver bullet for productivity gain that will ensure a substantial increase in productivity growth. New Zealand's productivity performance, to lift it, will require us to get many factors right, Mr Speaker. And as the Minister noted earlier, this is but one of those dominoes, if you like, that need to be lined up to be fixed, to be addressed, to be debated with more information than we currently have, to perhaps strip out some political rhetoric and actually look where we want New Zealand to go to, how can we get there. And I am confident that there will be a little bit of politics, I'm sure, but overall, Mr Speaker, I think members on the whole will recognise some of the issues. The debate will probably end up in the political realm of how we get there and how quickly, and what trade-offs politically or economically New Zealand has to make to start to regain its rightful place in the economic world. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker.